He is the Sokka-voiced protagonist of Netflix's perpetually underwatched The Dragon Prince. She is a mediocre assassin and a sarcastic Scottish elf. Though they start off the series as foes, they quickly grow closer. The show seems to be angling for them to establish a possibly romantic bond in the future, and this is the right path for the show to take. These two ought to be together, but the question is, why? And they look good together is not a sufficient answer, although yes, they do. But before we can discuss the narrative, personal, and thematic benefits to their coupling, we first have to discuss shipping as a whole. It is a pertinent discussion to have. Shipping is mocked far more frequently than it ought to be. While it may not be the most original way for fans to interact with a show they love, it is a harmless one. It is certainly better than memorizing worthless trivia. At its worst, it can be absurd and superficial and even antithetical to the work in question, but at its best, it can be compelling and intelligent. The question of Katang versus Zutara in Avatar: The Last Airbender engenders a lot of interesting discussions about entitlement and agency that the creators should have been more willing to consider. I'll endeavor to make this an intellectually minded analysis concerning why these two would, as they have been thus far presented in The Dragon Prince, benefit from each other's romantic partnership. Yes, a relationship does not have to be healthy or mutually beneficial to be interesting from a narrative standpoint, but this is less an argument that their coupling would be beneficial to the show as a whole, though it would, as exploring the dimensions of Rayla and Callum's relationship would further and ground the show's character work, and more an argument that the relationship would be beneficial to Callum and Rayla. Part 1. How the relationship would benefit Callum. When we are first introduced to Callum, he is still growing into the role he needs to fill. This is typical for a fantasy hero. If a character was perfect from the beginning of the show, they would not have anywhere to grow and change. Were Callum perfect at the start, he would be static and he would not be interesting. Compared to Ezrin, his half-brother and the heir to the throne, he has something of an inferiority complex. He's a prince, not because he was born one, but because his mother, Sarai, married King Harrow after the death of Callum's father. There's a part of him that feels like he isn't a real royal, and there is a larger part of him that feels lonely, especially since his mother died before the start of the series. He's quite close with Ezrin, but Ezrin is 10, while Callum is 15. Thus, confessing the full depth of his longings and desires and fears to Ezrin is not quite possible. As the journey progresses, he grows more confident in himself. While he suffers defeats, none of these break him, and while he makes mistakes, such as his interest in dark magic in Season 2, he is overall a smarter and savvier person than he was at the start of the series. His discovery of his ability to cast spells at the end of Season 2 is a major reason for this, but so is his tendency to help Rayla, who despite her cocky demeanor is even more insecure than he is. She's racked with guilt over her failure to fulfill her duty and kill Ezrin, but he helps her navigate through the specter of failure and eventually form a new and healthier conception of herself. Because of this, the bond between them deepens. The idea that he can be useful, that he's not just someone who lucked into being a prince, helps him grow. He doesn't see himself as just a kid who doesn't know what to do and who has been thrown into a grand adventure too vast and intricate for him to fully comprehend. This doesn't mean the bond between them is one-sided. She helps him too. In Season 2, when Callum is tempted by dark magic, she dissuades him, convincing him how morally wrong it is and how destructive it can be. True, she does treat him a little more harshly than she probably should, but this is understandable considering the long and tumultuous history of humans and elves. She serves as his moral voice, stopping his frustrations from curdling into destructive tendencies. Because of the confidence he gains from being able to help her, and because of the guidance she gives him, Callum is at his best when he is with Rayla. The two of them growing closer through a romantic relationship would make him more able to handle the challenges awaiting him in the future. Part 2, how the relationship would benefit Rayla. While Rayla has never fit well into her job as an assassin because of her fondness for humanity, the person she was before the start of the series would likely have scoffed if one told her that she was going to fall in love with one of her targets. Nevertheless, that is what is happening. She nearly confesses her love for him at the end of Season 2. And the likelihood that her feelings for him will develop further as they travel through Xadia throughout Season 3 is high. That she is falling in love with a human is proof that she is breaking free from the destructive anti-human biases that elf society has inflicted upon her. Though she has fought against these biases in the past, she finally has substantial proof that they are wrong. Callum is that proof. Here is a human who is selfless and compassionate instead of being petty and greedy. What starts as intrigue develops into infatuation. There is a sense that by becoming this close to a human, she is striking against the restrictive mores of elf society. However, her growing affection for him is not just a form of rebellion. She genuinely likes him and cares about him. By refusing to fulfill her assassin's duties, she became a disgrace. She lost her support network, but in Callum, she finds someone new there to support her. Yes, Ezrin likes her and wants to support her, but again, he is a prepubescent child. Royalty or not, he does not understand the depths of her emotions like Callum does. Moreover, because Ezrin has always been destined to be the king, he hasn't suffered the same sense of awkwardness and estrangement that both Callum and Rayla have endured. Callum doesn't know how to be a proper royal, just like Rayla doesn't know how to be a proper elf. She derives far more pleasure than Callum finds appropriate from her human impression, leading to some of the most amusing lines in the entire series. While she cracks jokes about humans, she does so lovingly. She's fascinated by humans, which puts her at odds with the rest of her society, which looks down upon humans. Unlike Ezrin, neither Callum nor Rayla can craft a coherent sense of identity from their place in society. They have to rely on themselves and each other to form their self-images. As Rayla becomes closer to Callum, she gradually grows more confident that her affection for humanity is good and right. Now, this doesn't mean she thinks humanity's perfect, or that she's not willing to criticize Callum. When Callum uses dark magic, Rayla reveals a more serious and dour side of herself. Callum is her proof that human society is not as monstrous as elves believe it is. If he starts using dark magic, he will be conforming to the worst and most pernicious stereotypes elves have of humans. So she struggles to keep him on the righteous path. She doesn't do this because she doesn't like him. She does this because she does like him. She likes him more than anyone she knows. And she wants to be able to like him with an unburdened heart, instead of with guilt and self-loathing. When he uses dark magic, he plays into the idea of who humans are in the minds of elves. Greedy, self-impressed megalomaniacs who only care about themselves. This forces Rayla to play into the stereotype of who elves are in the minds of humans. Pompous, holier-than-thou elitists who look down upon humans for wanting a fraction of the power elves possess. Only if Callum rejects dark magic can they both free themselves from those stereotypes and live a free and happy life together. Only then can they make their own destinies. If Rayla had merely disappeared into the wilderness after deciding not to kill Callum, she would have become nothing but a pariah. However, because she is with Callum, a path extends before her. It's not a clear path, and it is a path laden with obstacles, but it is a rich opportunity for her. She's at the forefront of all these inexorable changes befalling this world. Her differences from the other elves, those being her open-mindedness and her compassion for humanity, were disadvantages when she was in Xadia, but as she has traveled with Callum, she's come to realize that these differences are a good thing. They are morally right. She is the most confident version of herself when she is with him, and she would only become more confident if the two of them entered into a romantic relationship. Part 3. Conclusions and Predictions. While the show has subtly but effectively demonstrated how they make each other better people, it has not yet taken enough steps towards selling the connection between them. The moment in which Rayla nearly admits her feelings for Callum is sweet and tender, but it doesn't hit as hard as it could have because the emotional groundwork for a possible romantic relationship between the two had not been laid. If my suspicions are correct, and the show does bring these two together romantically, I hope it is a gradual and a narratively earned process. I hope the two of them have time to talk, and I hope that when they do talk, they discuss the themes I have previously mentioned. They're robust and vivid themes that deserve further analysis. Katara and Aang made each other better people too, but the show only made flailing and inconsistent attempts to sell them as a couple. And these attempts were not incorporated into the main thrust of the narrative, so their coupling, while not terrible, never felt as rewarding as it could have. The Dragon Prince can do better with Rayla and Callum, and I have confidence that it will, unless Netflix for some bizarre reason decides to cancel the show. However, the question is, how much better is it going to do? How much better is this relationship going to be compared to the mediocre relationship that was Aang and Katara? The foundation the show has thus far established is nothing revolutionary, but it is solid. There is a lot of upside. Neither Avatar: The Last Airbender nor The Legend of Korra were particularly deft at portraying complicated romantic relationships. The love triangle, or love square, depending on how you see it, that dominated Season 1 and 2 of The Legend of Korra, dragged fascinating thematic storytelling into the mire of vapid teenage melodrama. And while there is nothing that egregious in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it is not exactly much better. It's possible Rayla and Callum could become just another uninteresting romantic pairing, with more attention paid to the will they or won't they than the emotional dynamics between them. And if that happens, it would not necessarily hurt the Dragon Prince. Aang and Katara not exactly being Jack Dawson and Rose DeWitt Bukater didn't stop Avatar from being one of the most morally nuanced and emotionally complex series ever made. But I hope that doesn't happen. I hope the relationship between these two is given time to blossom and develop organically and naturally. Though I wouldn't mind if they included a few tee-hee, isn't this so cute moments. I hope that is not the full extent of their bond. They should be allowed time to understand each other and spill their darkest secrets out to each other, and grow as people as a result. Have them become closer, while questioning how close they can truly become considering the different circumstances in which they were raised. If done poorly, this relationship could feel like an unnecessary tangent from the heavy themes of war and injustice that shape the main narrative of the Dragon Prince. However, if done well, this relationship could expand upon these themes. There is something to be said for taking an idea that could seem abstract and making it concrete and emotionally grounded and palpable by using it as a foundation for a character relationship. For Callum, being with Rayla makes him far more than just an awkward teenager who lucked into being a prince when his now dead mother married the king. For Rayla, being with Callum makes her much more than just a failed assassin mocked for her compassion toward humanity. The world leaves them uncertain as to who they even are, but when they are together, that fog disappears. They know each other, and themselves, absolutely. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more content like this. If you watched The Dragon Prince, you're probably an Avatar fan, so check out the rest of my channel. There are a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender videos on it. Tune in soon for the next video. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.